Hello and welcome. So this is a first episode of a possible talk series. My name is Nathaniel. This is going to go up on my YouTube channel. This first episode. We're getting to know my sibling Matthew. It's a conversation. Goes into AI, philosophy, religion, and a smattering of other things, but done in the format of a pretty casual and accessible conversation. So, thanks for checking it out, and I hope you enjoy.
How about you? How's work going with you?
Pretty chill, just sort of coasting along, waiting for AI to replace my job, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know much about it on that side. I know AI is a joke when it comes to, obviously because of what my interests are. I'm more aware of the what AI has attempted to do in the world of art, screenwriting, and that kind of stuff. And it's kind of trash. I mean, it's pretty awful. I mean, it's like if you got this really bad writer, or like a bad screenwriter who only writes formulaic trash. You gave them a mind that could produce things immediately with infinite computing power, but would still write the same trash. They would do it in 5 seconds.
Oh man, have you seen that episode of South Park where Cartman dresses up as a robot to try and trick Butters? Yeah, Awesome. Yeah, and he yeah. Exactly.
That would be more interesting than what AI actually is. Very likely just 50 different, if you went to any theater and there was just 10 different movies that had the same on it, that would probably be more interesting. I don't know, I think it's honestly right beyond what happened. People, it's gotten a real backlash and there's that whole plagiarism for AI to do what it does. It basically has to have real works from real artists to learn from. But then they haven't paid those obviously for that. Well, but how is it in terms of the stuff that you do? Have you kept up with how AI is being able to replicate programming and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting sphere of the industry there. As far as AI programming goes, it's really reached a stage where it can do some really impressive things as far as sort of rapidly throwing together quick sort of structures, quick sort of basic websites and basic applications from scratch. It's really good at building applications and websites from scratch using pretty simple prompts, and it's it can really sort of blow people's minds how well it can do that, to spin something up from zero to a full-blown working application and website. The problem is, back end and front end. It just spins up the whole shebang. And it's really good at that. Yeah.
The same thing with you can follow the three amp structure and plug in the formulas, but then where all the nuance and all the subsystems and all the details and then
yeah, exactly. So yeah, like as soon as you start trying to introduce sort of adjusting features of it or adding your own like custom, your own novel ideas to the functionality or to the website, or you just try to tweak a small thing here and there, like the AI itself has a hard time even understanding the code that it produced, right?
Well, that's interesting though. It's interesting how we talk about it, understanding.
Mm-hmm.
All it does is it does an impression of understanding.
Right. Yeah.
It's like it's hard to get with the conversation box. It's just all this code anyway. It doesn't understand it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So the first question is about multiple reality. And, that's something that has been it's been present in the collective conscience for a while, especially with the introduction of sci-fi films that are always playing with these ideas in novels and stuff. But just how you feel and what you've come to believe in life and in the world of science and science fiction. What is your feeling on that? Do you believe there's a whole bunch of realities that are going on at once? And there's like people in each reality and different versions of ourselves? Or is there just this one reality that can sort of feel like different realities, just based on the vibrations of it in a given moment of day? What do you think?
So you mean sort of like everything everywhere all at once sort of scenario?
Well, no. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, so that everything everywhere all at once scenario would be the multiple.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And but of course it would be versus. And there's not really because you could say, versus the commonly accepted idea of what this life is, but even that is not true because, kind of more simple religious people believe that there's a heaven and a hell, and that would constitute two different realities that are happening at once, right? It's not a physical place. It's heaven, quote unquote. It wouldn't be a physical reality that's happening anywhere in this entire universe. The only way to get there would be to have some kind of overseeing entity that can point his finger at you and you disappear from this universe into the heaven or the hell or the limbo. Or so the idea that there's only one single moment, has a single reality happening. I mean, the most widely accepted worldview that would be compatible with that is kind of scientific materialism, which is evolution and it's the Big Bang and stuff. Basically, like this is the one thing that is one reality, and we're all just along for the ride. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a difference between sort of like this concept of heaven or hell and afterlife, and the sort of the concept of like the different planes of existence, where yeah, like your soul or sort of like your essence can in some fashion travel from one plane to the next. I think that it is fairly, it is in a way distinct from the idea of parallel existences. Because I mean, you're still only like a single entity that's just moving across greater than I guess the sort of corporal dimension, and then moving into maybe a different plane, but you're still only like a single entity. Um, you know.
Is the distinction here is you're mainly focusing on parallel self.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, so let's say heaven is going on in some separate dimension, or you could call it 5D. There's all kinds of different words for what is just kind of better and higher afterlife or reality. But so let's say if a different dimension was going on, but it didn't include your parallel self. Like so think of the common idea like heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of people up there who have died and they're hanging out, and we're still down here. And we're not parallel selves that are experiencing both at once, but these two realms exist simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that?
Yeah.
Because if you do believe in, I mean, and there's all kinds of different ideas of afterlife. I don't know what religions are. So, and that's an interesting question because I feel like sci-fi, it has predicted a lot of things, and it has made some real. When I say sci-fi, I mean like sci-fi fiction novels and films and stuff. That is, it's predicted a lot of things, and there's a lot of truth in it, even if it's stuff that may only happen in the future. But this thing with multiple realities, that's always been a hard one to get my head around. It's hard to, because you'd have to experience it to really know that there's a different reality.
Mm-hmm.
If it was easy to experience, then we probably would have done it before. If there was some way to kind of shift in between, like shift it into one reality and then shift back out to where you were, like it's interesting. But a lot of people believe in that. Do you ever feel like you've shifted into a different reality based on moments in your life or the way you were feeling, that not only your emotions were feeling, I don't know, more intense or different, but like the whole environment around you, wherever you go, it kind of carried a different vibration, or it felt like a different realm, but nothing obvious, nothing physical, but just the way it felt. Have you ever felt like that?
I've certainly experienced moments of, you could call them sort of intense, I don't know, lucidity, right? Mm-hmm.
Was that a product of a result of meditating, or just it maybe running or something, or did it just hit?
Yeah, I think mostly, during meditation retreats, after several days of just sort of focused intention there, you sort of it can sort of come on.
What is that like? So when you're not sitting down and focusing for days in a row, are you?
No, you're not. So typically, there, you sort of space it out throughout the day. So you'll meditate in the morning. You'll do sitting meditation in the morning, and then you'll transition to walking meditation, and then even your meals are eaten in silence, and you practice eating meditation, right? So you might have like a sort of like a dharma lesson where someone is speaking up at the front and you're listening. But the whole time with every activity that you do, the primary goal while you're doing so is to remain aware of your breath, whether you're sitting or walking or eating or listening. It's just to always hold on to that awareness of just your breath and staying in the present moment and trying not to let your mind sort of carry you out of the moment and sort of get lost in thinking about the future or the past or whatever.
Sure.
So yeah, go ahead.
Do you find that helps though with the breath, just like acknowledging your breath?
Yeah, it does. Because the breath is something that's only ever happening in right now in the present moment. It's sort of like an anchor that keeps you from wandering off, either ahead of the present moment or behind the present moment. So just feeling the breath come in and feeling the breath go out.
Well, don't you get, you said it was a couple of days, do you get tired of, like, after even, like, I don't know, half an hour, I imagine, like, all right, I'm done focusing or just, like, watching and acknowledging my own breath, like, do you ever feel like, oh, this is annoying to have to do this?
No, I've never felt annoyed. It becomes very relaxing. It might sound like it can be maybe mentally exhausting to concentrate that much, maybe, but really, you're not so much like puzzling out any sort of like profound, like any sort of like concepts or teachings, right? You're mostly just letting your mind sort of go quiet and just remaining in the present moment, and so it turns out to be just very relaxing, and if anything, it almost gets easier. Like it's hardest at the beginning, and then it becomes more natural the longer you do it.
Now, on those days, do you feel like, so when you woke up, were you in one state, and then, like, the more meditation or breath, it kind of elevated you throughout the day, or was it kind of steady the whole way through, just that kind of steady feeling of more peace and awareness and joy?
Yeah, I do think, that it does build throughout the day, and certainly throughout the retreat, it sort of accumulates, as with each passing day, it just gets sort of easier, yeah.
And so, I've kind of made quick studies or, I've kind of grazed on a lot of different religions, but I haven't gone really deep into any of them. So does Buddhism, this feeling is one of the ideas that if you basically live your whole life like a meditation retreat, it keeps you rising, and then eventually it becomes consistent enough at a high enough level that you would call that enlightenment or nirvana.
Yeah, that's essentially the idea, exactly.
Well, yeah, man, meditation has never worked for me just because I haven't really tried it for more than 10 or 15 minutes. My mind is always thinking now. It's hard to try to kind of let your thoughts just go by without digging into them. I think there's a lot of physical aspects to it, and it's probably easier when you're kind of living, you're more, I don't know what you'd call it, like mental, physical fitness, with the fasting occasionally and exercise. I'd imagine that meditation and stuff like that is a little bit easier when you're like that. You've got that going.
Yeah, and I'm sure. Yeah, there's definitely a connection between the mind and the body, and at any given moment, sometimes your mind is agitated and could be racing or right, and that it's kind of like when you're trying to go to sleep. Like some nights it's pretty easy to fall asleep. 'Cause your mind is pretty still, and then other nights your mind is just racing, and you're just lying there in the bed staring up at the ceiling. And there's so many different factors that lead to those states that a lot of times we're not even aware of as they accumulate leading up to bedtime.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's always been my problem with kind of stuff like that, which I can completely and almost factually acknowledge that it's healthy, quote unquote healthy, but the things like the health nut lifestyle and stuff, it's tough because if you don't exactly enjoy doing all that stuff all the time. There's some people who love going to the gym, and some people who feel like it's a chore. Let's get back onto the multiple reality.
Okay.
Talking about it, but
yeah,
it didn't sound like you necessarily have a really definite idea one way or the other. Like maybe a little bit agnostic about that.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good way to describe my experience with it.
Have you thought about it much? Have you ever wondered about it?
I mean, only superficially. I've yet to really, I guess, be hooked by maybe how it could be relevant to me, I guess. So that's like my main hurdle is like if there is like a parallel mat, with hot dogs for fingers or whatever, like what is that? Yeah. What would that information do for me? How would that help me? So yeah, that's why I'm fairly agnostic and haven't really dived too much into the possibilities. Yeah.
Well, that's an excellent point, and I happen to agree with you. There are a lot of concepts and ideas about life that are kind of interesting to delve into if you find them interesting, but a lot of it doesn't really do much in a practical way. it is an interesting idea of, the implication. Like if there are multiple realities versus a single one, there would be implication.
Mm-hmm.
Like, first of all, it would do some damage to religion, right? Because at least a lot of Western religions, because Western religions believe in a finite or infinite, I guess, but at the individual, at least, soul. So if there's an individual soul that is on an individual journey, then how can that soul be actually having that journey in 100 different realities at once? And, why would anything that an individual does matter? Because there would be enough realities to where that basically every possibility or choice that that individual is faced with is done somewhere. So, it does, that definitely throws a monkey wrench into some of the more traditional religious ideas.
Yeah, that's true.
But I guess I think I agree with you on that. People don't really talk about it, that concept, too much outside of like science fiction. They're talking about the latest Avengers movie or something, which is kind of annoying.
So have you had an experience where you felt like you were maybe had some sense of
Absolutely, all the time, and that's the problem, is because it's the problem with a lot of religious and mystical, esoteric concepts, is that everything is so vague. So it's like, it feels like a different dimension. All right, but so then if that's all it takes to be, it's all it takes to be in to say I'm in a different dimension, and things feel a little bit stranger or different than yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then how is that definition? Like, how is that not just emotions that change for the day?
Mm-hmm.
But then I noticed, like, there have been times where it's like you feel odd, or maybe a little bit what's that word? Limit. And then just at that moment, a crow caws next to a branch that you're walking, right? It feels like almost coordinated, like in a movie. So, there are those kinds of things, but then again, it's like, even if that's true, then how is that not just a single reality where your perspective and your emotions are kind of changing from day to day, and not like you're shifting into dimension? But yeah, I guess that's kind of a wash, because neither of us really have said we believe one way or the other. Anyways, I don't know if there's more to go on that. Any more thoughts on dimension?
No, not that I can think of. Nope.
All right, so then let's jump on to the next question. Do you believe in a mathematical and logical approach to life, or more of an intuitive one? Or do you just kind of switch? Like, do you make a conscious effort to be like, I'm going to be logical about this because logic is, what matters, or like I'm going to go based on gut feel for any kind of decision or moment in your day to day?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess my Myers-Briggs type is INFP. So like I definitely, like, I consider myself more intuition guided. And yeah, especially I guess with Buddhism too. Buddhism is very much like that as well. Where there aren't a lot of hard rules to live by. It's very intuition based. Like for example, that somebody asked a monk one time. He's like, "Hey, like I smoke cigarettes a lot. Like, what should I do about it? Should I quit or what should I do?" And then the monk just told him, "Well, the next time you feel like you want to smoke a cigarette, just go ahead and smoke it, but do it mindfully. Like, do it and remain in the present and focus on how you feel. How do you feel before you put it in your mouth? How do you feel when you light it? How do you feel when it's all burned up and gone and you have to put it out? Like, how do you feel then? And how do you feel, 30 minutes later? It's all about intuition and focusing on how your actions, what are the consequences to the actions that you notice, the consequences on yourself, the consequences on the world around you, and just paying attention to them and not letting those details sort of be lost. And so it's very, very intuition guided, and that's a lot of how I go about life as well.
Interesting. Now that's interesting for a couple of reasons. It's interesting that you consider that intuition guided, because it sounds like it's a lot of both, but it sounds like a very logical approach, almost mathematical. Like it's almost, I was in process improvement for a long time when I was younger, before I got into film, and it almost sounds like a process improvement view towards existence of life itself. You start to, just little things that are wrong with the process, and you try to tweak them until you get it, you get it as best as you can get it.
Okay, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, but no, that's a good way to look at it. The thing that I like about it is that it's looking at the moment, and it is also looking into the future, which is, I think, with a lot of even philosophies and stuff like that, and religion, a lot of times the problem is they value one over the other too much. They either value the present, the exact present moment too much, and that's probably if you think like hedonism and stuff. Always just going wild no matter what.
Right.
Yeah, but then, if you look at, say some Christian or Western religions, they only focus on it. It's all about getting to heaven. It's all about, doesn't matter if you're miserable.
Yeah.
No matter if you're miserable on earth, as long as you get that golden ticket when you kick the bucket, then you're all good. Which is, I think, is at least half the flawed way to look at it.
Definitely.
Yeah, but I agree. I mean, I really leaned into my intuition in these last few years, or last 5-10 years. And I like it. It just feels pretty. Logic sometimes feels like it's a constraint as much as it is a useful tool to have. Because you can get so into logic and thinking that you forget how to use your imagination and your gut, and so then it becomes sort of a cage. Like now you're afraid to do anything that's not logical.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think an issue with logic is it relies on the concepts and the preconceptions that we built up, and you base all of your decisions and what you determine is logical or non-logical is entirely based on just your background and your memory, right? And that's not always very reliable or consistent.
Yeah, or at the very least, applicable.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I think they're on the same page. It's interesting though because you definitely, I don't know about you, but you definitely know people who are kind of one or the other. They definitely lean one way or the other. And I mean, I guess the cliche is, you just look at professions, like the actuary or the accountant versus the painter or the actor, musician or something. I don't know. It's just interesting, I guess, how people come to their processes of how they decide things and how they live.
Yeah, definitely.
What's next? All right. Okay, so we're already getting into this territory, all right. So do you feel like talking about Buddhism?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So what would you label yourself as anything? You can be as general or specific as you like.
Yeah, I would label myself as a Buddhist practitioner. It's there are multiple schools of Buddhism, and I tend to favor more of like the Zen tradition, but I've studied several different traditions, and they're all pretty good. So I
Roughly how many are there different?
yeah, I mean it kind of depends on how granular you want to get, but the larger schools, there's probably a good, I'm not, I don't know how much of an expert I am on all the schools, but there's roughly maybe five, like a handful or so of the major branches of Buddhism, you could say.
Now is Mahayana?
Yeah, Mahayana is definitely one of the larger branches. So like Zen is a branch, like a subtype of Mahayana. Yeah, so at the Mahayana level, there's only like basically two different branches, either Mahayana or Theravada, and then all the traditions sort of branch off from either one or the other of those. Yeah.
And okay, so then with Zen, what do you, what is it about it that attracted you to that as opposed to any other variation?
Yeah. So one of the main sort of components of Zen that sort of set it apart is this concept of it's referred to as self power. It's as opposed to other power, which is sort of like almost sort of like deity worship in a way, because Buddhism has elements of sort of deity focus or focusing on some other power and faith in another power in order to advance your progress. But then is very deliberately focused on sort of putting faith in yourself and cultivating your own capacity for concentration and wisdom and compassion, and sort of working on that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just that distinction, because like in pagan religion, you've got a whole smorgasbord of deities to choose from, and basically people kind of just gravitate towards the ones they like, or they feel like can help them. And then even in monotheistic religions, people will sometimes tend to just interpret the single God as having characteristics that they prefer to have. That's why you get the different branches that split off.
Mm-hmm.
And so, eventually people are always trying to see the aspects of themselves that they value in whatever deity they believe in, which is interesting.
Yeah, definitely. We're always like projecting.
Yeah, and I always wonder is for those that do it, you have to wonder, are they conscious of that? Like, are they thinking, oh well, I wonder if I can just interpret it the way I like, or maybe they don't believe it at all, and they're just like, hey, I can just say, I can just say that, God wants me to kill these infidels, or do this or that, and it's like, okay, it's I don't know, it's an interesting thing, how you can have these kind of progressions of and there's progressions of religion, right, throughout decades and centuries even. But if there was if these priests and everything, if they were getting the one true word, then wouldn't it pretty much always be the same? Like, well, how would you be? If you were really just relaying from some kind of deity exactly what he thinks or she thinks, it thinks, there wouldn't be so much change time in any religion. So that's very interesting. Interesting way to look at it.
Yeah. I don't consider myself so cynical to think that because the people who are sort of the leaders, the thought leaders of any particular religious movement, I don't believe, I don't think I'm so cynical to think that they're just like, yeah, we're just making this all up and we're just gonna design this deity to fit, our desires of accepting that, the exception would be, these one-off cults and stuff like that. Like, those sort of people, I wouldn't put it past them to just be totally eyes wide open and just, yeah. And I think there's more South Park references, right? But there's an episode on Scientology where I forget one of the kids is like the reincarnation of who's the Scientology founder, Hubbard, L. Ron Hubbard, yeah. and all the Scientology leaders are all just like, yeah, it's all BS. Like, those guys are really funny.
Yeah, Matt and Trey, they are. I always had a lot of respect for them because they basically just skewered everything. If you could say that they were taking sides on anything, it would just be common sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's, let's see, so, yeah, I think we can move on from that a little bit. Other than to just say that I agree with you mostly, but I think that, just like, there can be bad faith actors anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you are a bad faith actor, you kind of, it's like that idea that sociopaths are more successful than empathy. So like if there was like, a Catholic priest who was, climbing the Catholic hierarchy, and he really just had to play the role of a priest, but he wanted to get up to, I don't know, near the Pope or somewhere like that. That would be possible too. Because you just have to project an image that people will believe.
Yeah, that's true.
I think I agree with you that it probably doesn't happen too often because who would want to, that seems like a weird thing to do.
Yeah, that's my thought. It would require a really interesting drive.
It would have to be like a CIA agent that would set upon that as a mission. That actually wants to do that if you didn't really buy it.
Yeah.
All right, so then on to the political stuff. And how do you feel about talking about that?
Yeah, that's great.
All right, so what would you label yourself politically?
I would label myself as, and maybe it's a generic term, but I'd probably use the word leftist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. Well, because it's, there's so many different, just like religions, there's so many different types of leftists, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you're, so if it was a spectrum and you had kind of the far left and then you had liberals, where would you put yourself between those two? Or do you not see much of a distinction?
I would consider myself further towards the left than what is typically referred to as a liberal. Yeah.
Which the main distinction there, as I understand, is the idea of it's mostly comes down to economics. Like, there is this idea that leftists are these, blue-haired, screaming at I think that's just more of an image that certain parties want to project.
Mm-hmm.
But the real difference between leftists and liberals is how much economic support the government should, or just how much the government should try to structure the economic foundations of a society, right, so that it works for everybody.
Yeah, I think that sounds accurate.
Well, what would you, off the top of your head, any big distinctions come to mind between liberals and leftists, other than economics?
I guess, only sort of like a vague sense of maybe their tolerance. Well, I guess that ultimately comes down to economics, but their tolerance for or sort of their confidence sort of in the capitalist system as an economic system, the capitalism. You know, like how viable it is as a system. Like, is it just like capitalism is a perfectly capable system that just needs guardrails on it and then it'll work fine, or is it a fundamentally inadequate system that needs to be replaced?
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, I guess now, just thinking of the leftists that I know of on Twitter and stuff, it is, for leftists, it seems there's a lot more of a moral quality. Like, it's not just, even though liberals, and pretty much everyone is going to say they're against war and things like that, and like certain foreign policies about messing with other countries. But leftists, they will get, they will get all, they'll go throw themselves in front of cars and stuff. Liberals will be like, yeah, we don't really like the war that's going on, but, whatever.
Right.
So I guess there are some differences besides economics.
It's almost like a difference in strategy, right? Priority, yeah. Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about the leftist movement? How do you feel it's going in this country?
Yeah. How is it going? That's a good question. That's hard to say. Because man, yeah. We definitely do. Man, it feels like, from my perspective, it feels like progress is somewhat stagnant, and the left just has this seemingly never-ending inability to really organize into a cohesive and lasting force of resistance.
I don't know, man. I see them like making a lot of progress just in terms of popularity. But for the big thing, like the big changes, obviously, that's been slow, but you do look around and you see, just paying attention to social media or whatever, even in small business like Mayor and stuff, there are a lot more leftists everywhere. It seems like there's even, in New York, it seems like there's, forget his name, but there are a lot of leftists. Do you feel like that? You see more leftists running for office than say 10 years ago?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess 10 years back. That. Yeah, Bernie. Yeah, 'cause back then, I guess. I guess, like, cause Bernie's, 2015, which is exactly like 10 years ago, that was when I sort of, really, started getting involved in politics. Yeah, nice.
I think that's true for a lot of people.
Yeah, that would not surprise me at all. And so, yeah, it's hard because I don't have a real good, sense of, the number of leftist candidates previously versus now.
You just hear about it. I mean, I guess I remember it back then because I remember Bernie like blowing my mind.
Yeah.
He was the first person who would really talk about economic issues the way he did. So I think he kind of started that move, at least to where it was so mainstream. I mean, I know there's always been leftists all the way back in, 20s or 30s.
Right, yeah.
But, anyway, I would consider myself a leftist in a lot of ways, but I don't like labels too much. I mean, they're useful for conversations and getting to know people, but because there's so much that's wrapped up in it. Like, if you say, I'm a leftist, I'm a liberal, I'm a conservative, yada yada, then there's this whole package of like pre-packaged beliefs about, now this is what you probably believe on this and this and this, but I feel like almost it would be, better if people kind of thought about things, like each individual issue, just in terms of whether it makes sense or not. I'd say the part about leftism that I agree with the most is basically giving people resources to live their life the way they want, like making it more economically fair, or having programs for even just like more housing for homeless people and stuff like that. Just like a net plus, because then you don't have people on the streets and stuff in parks, which people say it's so awful, it's so horrible. Well, guess what? Guess how much money the government has. Guess how easy it would be to buy like 3 hotels that have a couple hundred rooms each. That's 600 rooms that you put homeless people in, and they wouldn't be on the street. They wouldn't be harassing people or making them feel weird. Things like that seem like a no-brainer.
Right.
But then it's when the leftist ideology kind of veers into social control, and then I think that's what I have telling people, how they should talk, the things that they should care about, even the language they should use, all that. I think that goes a bit too far. And it's like most of these problems are a result of poverty anyways. Like people wouldn't care about this stuff as much if they were all able to kind of just pursue the things that they enjoy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a glad bag, but I think I empathize with leftists in a lot of ways. But like, if you could put any program into action, just off the top of your head, what kind of change or government program would you either take away or enact?
I mean, personally, I would love to see, so it's sort of like a pet topic of mine, I guess, is, ranked choice voting.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I feel like it's just, it's not like this wildly, like, pie in the sky idea, but I feel like, it could do so much to empower, I guess you could say, what's the word I'm looking for? New ideas, people who are thinking outside the box and, are, kind of like what you're saying, like people who don't fit into the pre-packaged labels, and have unique solutions to problems, like right now those people are hamstringed as forced to run as independents or run as minor third party candidates that just hardly have a prayer at winning anything outside of like anything larger than like a mayor, right?
Yeah.
And so it just makes it impossible for new solutions, new thinking to break into the larger, more higher power positions, and so we just end up stagnating.
I agree. I mean, the thing about ranked choice is that there's really, like, if we're being honest, there's no argument against it. If you have to be honest and made an argument against it, then you would be either Democrat or Republican saying, well, because we'd lose more seats.
Yeah.
Like, right? So you're admitting that you basically set it up so that it doesn't make any sense. You have to vote for this one guy, and then if he doesn't win, then your vote is wasted. Oh, but you could easily just so that it carries up to the next one. All right.
Yeah.
I think that's enough for the politics. Now let's go to something a little lighter. What are some things that you enjoy doing and also do often?
Okay. Yeah. I guess for me right now, that would pretty much come down to one thing, and that's running. I run. It's almost like a part-time job for me. It's like close to 20 hours a week is just running.
How many days a week?
Every day.
Every day. And so, on average, how long is this to run?
Average, my daily run that I usually fit in my lunch hour is it's about an hour. But then I'll try to fit in longer runs on the weekend. And then right now I'm doing my longest run actually in the middle of the week. Just because with kids and family stuff, like weekends tend to get kind of crazy for me. So I do my longest run actually just right smack dab in the middle of the week, and that one's about 3 hours. Yeah.
How long have you been doing that?
I mean, I've been running, I guess, long distances for about 4 or 5 years. But it definitely in the past year, it's been ramping up, and I've made the transition from marathon to ultra marathon, which is beyond, that. So it's ramping up over the past year or so, yeah.
So, did you actually enjoy it in the moment?
Yeah, I do. It's a lot of fun.
Do you like to run around the city or go out into nature on a trail?
I definitely prefer the trails. Yeah, it's much more enjoyable. The city, when I run in the city, it's only for convenience, because trails you gotta get to the trailhead. Yeah.
Do you run at night or in the day mostly?
Mostly during the day. Yeah, during the day or early morning. Yeah.
Do you ever run at night?
I have. If I'm really pushing for like a training goal for distance and I'm behind, sometimes I will squeeze one in before bed or so if I need to.
Yeah, well, I used to, a long time ago, I used to run. I kind of like running at night just because of, like the atmosphere in the city. I started running the city, and, you have all the neon signs and the people walking the streets and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that made it a little bit more interesting because, there's always stuff to look at and stuff.
Yeah, I could see that. That'd be fun.
So that's really. Is there anything that you enjoy more than running? Any kind of activity, or that it's just not feasible to do it very often?
Let's see. I mean, I do enjoy meditation retreats. Right, that's not
running and meditation.
yeah, those are two big ones. And then every now and then I'll try and make it out to a concert, local concert. Those are fun too. Yeah.
Any kind of specific genre, or just whatever comes to town?
I think most of the concerts I go to are actually like metal concerts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Give me a metal band.
I mean the last metal concert I went to was Meshuggah. Do you know Meshuggah?
Around.
Yeah, they have.
Aren't they like? They're almost. I don't know what the word for it is. They're like the Growler.
Yeah, like death metal. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. How long have you been into that thing?
Probably a couple of years now. I'd say 2 or 3 years.
What? How did you get into that? Only so recent.
What was the first concert I went to? I think I went to who was it? Black Dahlia Murder. And I don't know what sort of inspired me to actually, if I recall, I think it was because, I think, it was like 4 years ago or something like that. Hope, our sister, she gave me a t-shirt, and just randomly, I don't think it was any sort of special occasion. I think she was just visiting. This was back when she was living here in Utah, I think, she gave me a shirt that said, death in my metal, not in my meals. And it was like a vegan, right? And it was a really cool shirt. And I think that made me like if I'm gonna have this shirt, like I should at least go to a death metal concert at least once. And so yeah, I found Black Dahlia Murder was coming to Salt Lake, and so I got tickets and I went, and like the concert was just like such a powerful experience. Like not just Black Dahlia Murder, but the opening bands, like every single one that came up was just like so powerful. And the crowd was awesome. And it was just this, I had no idea like how emotionally charged those concerts can be.
Oh yeah. That was my concert of choice back in my younger days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember if we talked much. No, I grew up as a metalhead.
Oh, nice.
I grew up on the thrash stuff, Metallica, Megadeth, Pantera.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, got into the grunge later on. No, but the concerts are definitely one of the best parts because, it is. It's like you say, it's really intense and it has that, it's the same reason that like people listen to metal if they're trying to get pumped up for some kind of activity.
Mm-hmm.
It contains that energy. And sometimes there's no substance. Like, it's not the same thing as listening to like, I don't know, oldies or something. You can't really get that energy or else if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Have you met anyone at these concerts? Like made any acquaintances or friends?
No, I haven't. I haven't ever. I'm trying to think. Aside from the guy like next to me, sometimes we'll chat back and forth when it's between bands or something, and we're just waiting for the next band to come on. We'll chat a little bit about like, how long have you known the band, and do you know who the opening act is, and that sort of thing. But I've never actually kept contact with anyone from it. Yeah. But the people are definitely like a major part of it, right? It's like and especially you get this is something about the metal concerts also that I like is like the mosh pits, right? It's like like other concerts, I go to other genres here and there, and you don't really have the mosh pit, any sort of moshing,
except maybe like punk.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
I would never go. I didn't really go in the mosh pit when I would go to concerts, but just having them there, it kind of imparts the energy into the arena.
Yeah.
Do you actually participate in them?
Yeah, I've been in them every now and then. I like being right up against the stage. Like that's like my favorite spot to be. You
basically you can see them hitting the notes on the guitar.
Yeah, yep, and like you've got like the rail that you can sort of like hang on to and just like really like like get into it, right?
Yeah.
You don't got to worry about anyone like in front of you like you don't gotta worry about hitting into them or anything like that. So right up at the front is where I like to be the most. But you can't do both. You can't be in the mosh and be right up at the front. So as soon as you leave the front, someone's gonna take your place, and then it's done. You're never going back.
Yeah, I do.
But I have been a couple of times, ended up in the mosh, and yeah, it's definitely like it feels like you're sort of like in the middle. You know, we talked about like that intense energy, and when you're in it, it's like you're in the middle of a tornado, just like the epicenter of that energy.
The eyes.
Except it's not calm. It's like the actual the nucleus, right, where it's just like most concentrated, and you're literally getting like thrown around. It's like, yes, that they're people. They are people that are pushing you around, but it doesn't feel personal, right? It's just the energy.
It's a release of energy.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I didn't know that about you. Okay. So then, let's on to the next one. As a programmer, let's even open this up. Have you programmed games, or even just developed games that are old games or any kind of games at all?
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't program games. I wouldn't really say that I've ever programmed any game to speak of. No.
Do you still play games every once in a while?
Yeah. For the most part, for the past, so currently, I basically only play games, with my kids. So, and that's a regular thing. Like we have our sort of designated game time, every now and then throughout the week, and that's something, especially on the weekend, that's what I like to participate with them, playing, like, if Roblox or like Minecraft or, those sort of things. That sometimes we'll do, sort of like Mario Kart or Smash Brothers, that sort of thing. But aside from that, as far as like just personal, like me actually playing games that I want to play, the last one that I played, so the last one that I beat was Minecraft, and that was just something, like, I had that on my sort of like a bucket list. Like, it's such an iconic game, and like almost like a cultural staple, of it's like a defining cultural piece, right? And as someone who, I consider myself a gamer, at least, it's a large part of my background. I felt like I needed to experience that and beat it. Yeah, I did. And it was difficult. Like it's, it kind of has this feeling of like a children's game, but it's challenging, and it.
What's just the general goal to beat? Because some you just build a bunch of random shit.
Yeah, that's definitely the perception, right? But believe it or not, like, the game does have an end goal, and once you complete the end goal, there's a final credits, rolling credits, and how you achieve that goal is, there's a pretty wide, they give you a lot of leeway as far as how you get to that main goal, but there is sort of like there's a finish line, and there's a fairly structured sort of well-beaten path, you could say. There are certainly shortcuts, and speedrunners, can beat the game in like 5 minutes, right, using all these things. But there is sort of like a standard sequence of progressions that you make toward that finish line. And if you follow that sort of standard path, the gameplay, it'll take you a good 40 hours or so. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's do a couple. We're going to skip one for now. Go back. What types of things do you find humor in? Have you ever thought about that?
What type of things do I find humor in?
Like, what kind of shows do you like? I mean, you've mentioned South Park a few times, but anything going on? Anything that you like these days that maybe that you go back to as a comfort show?
Yeah, South Park is one. I enjoy, Rick and Morty has some pretty good content there. I'm not totally up to speed on all the latest seasons, but I've seen, I think, the first 2 or 3 seasons of it, and there's some pretty good stuff there for sure.
Yeah. How about life in general? Is there anything specific that you've noticed that you find funnier than most people? Any kinds of human behaviors or just things that happen in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, like what sort of things do I sort of chuckle at throughout the day when I see it? That's kind of hard to put my finger on.
Yeah, it's an odd question. I don't think a lot of people think about that. I find animals really funny.
Okay. All right.
The way they act and the way they look. And not just in general, but, just certain things they do. I don't know, there's just something funny about it.
Okay.
I mean, and obviously I'm not alone because, cat videos and stuff like that, they're pretty much universally. But I think I was just thinking about this the other day, I think that's kind of interesting because why should we find that so funny? Not even things that are like obvious, like a cat trying to jump onto a cupboard or something and then
falling,
smacking the head on it. That's funny in the human being or whatever. Yeah. There's just somewhat little behaviors that they do. I don't know, because it seems like it just seems. I don't know why I find that funny. Yeah, but I don't think a lot of people think about stuff like that. What about sports? Do you watch any sports? Do you appreciate any? Do you play any sports?
Sports? Yeah, I guess not particularly. I mean, I don't know, right? Only to the degree that you would consider, endurance racing a sport, but certainly not team sports and things like that. They've never quite captured my interest.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to play basketball, open gyms and stuff. That was fun, but it's hard to make a routine out of that stuff because it's just kind of you got got other stuff in life that are higher up on the list to worry about.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on from that. What do you imagine? What do you think the purpose of dreams is? Why do we have them?
That's a good question. The purpose of dreams. So I mean, I think. Yeah. I mean, from what I understand, I think the science is still pretty out, as far as like, the purpose of dreams, if there even is a purpose to dreams. Like there's certainly a very crucial purpose to sleep and like, REM sleep and deep sleep. But as far as like the
what is the purpose of REM sleep? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I mean the purpose.
The mind and body.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
That's interesting though, because we wouldn't need dreams for that purpose, right? Because we could just sleep and then wake up. So why do you think just that often? What do you imagine? Is there any other reason, or do you think it's kind of like it's just something that our brain does to keep itself occupied while we're just sitting there with our eyes open?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I kind of I sort of hold like two different ideas in parallel. I guess you could say that the sort of logical, rational, scientific side of me feels that part of one of the things that the brain does during deep sleep and REM sleep is it's sort of reorganizing all of the information that it has collected during the waking hours, transferring things from short-term memory to long-term memory, and just reorganizing information and trying to sort it into where it belongs in the brain, where it doesn't belong, and it as part of that process of shifting that information around, it's sort of like those little puzzles where you have to slide one square over to move another square down. I'm not sure what those puzzles are called, but you know what I'm talking about? It's sort of like a jumbled. They're all like locked into place. Yeah, sort of like a Rubik's Cube, right? So in order to get like information from one side of your brain to the other, you sort of have to jumble around a lot of different pieces of information. And so like in my mind, that's kind of how I kind of imagine like that what's going on is just the brain is trying to sort of defragment and reorganize information that it's got through the day, and as it's doing so, it's just generating a lot of random experiences, memories, perceptions, and it's just they're all just sort of bubbling up and turning into this like nonsensical narrative. So that's like one thought, but the other thought, and this is something that I've read from some authors, is that the narratives there is a certain intentionality behind it, as the brain is basically attempting to sort of resolve unprocessed. I don't know if trauma is the right word, but like potent emotional experiences that occurred, that you experienced, but in that moment when you're experiencing them, you didn't really have the capacity to fully process the emotion of the experience, and so it kind of got your brain sort of just like tucked it away because it was too overwhelming to fully process. And then during sleep, your brain kind of tries to dislodge and sort of process these emotions, and it does so by like alluding to the experience, just subtly alluding to it using symbols and similarities.
Do you think dreams use metaphors?
Yeah, exactly. Metaphors, exactly.
Well, so what I mean by that is, do you think dreams intend to use metaphors, or do we project the meaning onto what is essentially, like you say, pointless and nonsensical events and actions that happen in dreams, or the intent of the dream to use metaphors with animals and clocks and whatever else?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that, like, the thing that is inside us or outside us that creates the dream, does it intend to use metaphors?
I think that it does. Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy to think about, isn't it?
I mean, like I can come up with a metaphor. I can use when I want to come up with a metaphor for something in order to communicate an idea. Like, I do that using my brain. So, like, I know my brain can do that. Like, whether I will it to while I'm awake, or whether it does it on its own while I'm unconscious, I know that it's capable of forming those. It has the base of information, and it knows how to put it together.
But, it's interesting to think about. Now, if that is the case, that, that our minds create the dreams, the mechanisms that go into it, like, designing the dream each night. Okay, what is that mind doing? He's like, okay, well, let's see, we'll start it off in a big palace, we're going to have a tiger on the roof. My brain is a little, I didn't know he was that creative. And they make it, and they make that reality that we walk around it, and it feels exactly like this reality. Wow, our brains are pretty powerful, aren't they? They can do almost an exact simulation of reality with people and metaphors and everything. Interesting. Yeah, it's pretty impressive, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the way I've heard it described is like the brain is constantly doing this. Like, it's what the brain does 24 hours a day, is constructing reality, like, for us to perceive. And while we're awake, the outside stimuli sort of constrain the creativity, that the brain can work with to construct that reality. It's constrained by our vision, what we're seeing. It's constrained by what we're feeling and what we're hearing and what we're smelling. But it's still constructing reality. It's just it has some constraints based on our sense perception. But as soon as we fall asleep and those perceptions shut down, it's still just creating reality for us, but it's no longer constrained by, perception. So it gives more freedom to continue doing what it's always doing 24 hours a day, but now it just has more freedom, more room to work with,
Well, yeah, and it puts us in a state, it's a whole different state though, right? Because, if that was the case, then we should just be able to close our eyes and just think of something and then be in it. It has this mechanism to where, and one of the strangest things about dreams is memory, that not only can it create these realities in dreams, but it can separate our memories. I don't know, not all the time, because sometimes we will remember things about ourselves and our lives, and a lot of times, but they're more like these things that are just innate in us. Like you don't start a dream like you're in some weird place and then think, hold on, wait, I was just in my room. Why am I? No, you're already just doing something, and you don't even really think of it. So it doesn't only create these realities, but it partitions our memory, reality and dream state.
Yeah.
Fucking impressive. A memory, I can't turn it off if I wanted to. Reality, it's always there, even if I try to ignore it. The memories are always there. You can pop up even if you don't want to, or you can always go track one down if you're trying to remember it. But that's one of the craziest things, how it can play with memory like that.
Yeah.
But I've got a lot of wild theories on that stuff. It seems like it's even possible that this thing is like the collective consciousness stuff. It's like dreams might actually come from outside of us somewhere, but I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff to think about there. Let's finish it off with the last question. If you could start a civilization from scratch, and you're not limited by, you have to take centuries to build things, but if you could just start scratch and keep whatever you want, or introduce new things just from your imagination, how would it be different from this one, and how would it be the same? And that's kind of a big question. So just whatever's off the top of your head, you don't have to worry about being clear.
Yeah. What I would, the sort of ideal civilization that I could think of is just one where we are just a part of nature. Like we're integrated as just one more component of nature, rather than sort of this foreign entity in opposition to nature. I feel like so much of society right now is designed around putting boundaries and separating ourselves from nature, and even exploiting nature, right? And so, yeah, I think the civilization that I would see as ideal is one where, and
How would that look? So like cities and towns, they just have a lot more trees and shrubbery and everything. How would that look in your mind? How would it be designed differently?
Yeah. I mean, I would say,
just off the top, nothing too, thorough or anything. It's just maybe one or two things that you would imagine would be different.
yeah.
Incorporating nature to that extent.
I guess one of the main things would be just be a respect for life, viewing the lives of the other animals and beings on this planet, viewing them as equals, rather than subordinates, and inferior objects, and so, obviously, like, consuming them, like that would just be like inconceivable. Right. So that would probably be the main thing. It would be a plant-based society where no one would ever even think, like, I should put that in my mouth. I should pick up this creature and stab it and put it in my mouth. Like, that's just like such a,
Well, that's an interesting thing that going back to the dimension question. If there are multiple dimensions, if there are dimensions where that is the prevailing worldview, or if you believe in somewhere like heaven, so is that what it's like in heaven? Is there no, or do people not even eat? But if there are multiple realities, I would assume there are plenty that are like that, right? Because it's a view that's held by a lot of people.
Yeah.
But then again, so like if you were starving, like if you were a hunter-gatherer and you were starving, and there was a animal, you would just not even think of that. It would be like thinking about killing your friend or something. Like you'd starve if that was the only option.
Yeah, I think in those situations when it's survival, then yeah, I think it's in that scenario, you can respect the life of another creature by consuming it, right? But you're not in that scenario. It's not exploitative, I guess you could say, because you're not robbing a whole species of its right to live freely. Yeah.
So it's mostly nature related is how you would change. I'm sure there's probably a lot of stuff about the government too, but we don't need to get into all of that.
Yeah.
What do you so that meme where it's like this is what the world would be if someone planked didn't happen? So like lawns and spaceships.
Utopia, yeah.
You could just from that picture, would you think that is a utopia? What does it look like? Or like if you could change, if you could live in that place, would you?
Was like the manicured lawn and everything like that.
There's definitely some implications about what a place like that would be like.
that everything is very ordered. So, everything is, nicely manicured, very ordered, like, the broken window theory taken to the max. Like, nothing ever, like, you have to wonder, like, so in a site, like, everything is perfect. Like, you have ceiling beds, you have transportation that can get you there in 10 seconds, even if you're going across the country. Like, would you prefer to live in that kind of utopia where pretty much everything is perfect, as opposed to somewhere like this?
Oh, man. Yeah, that is a tough one. I mean, it kind of makes me think of, like WALL-E, right? Like the spaceship people in WALL-E.
I don't remember that one. What were the spaceship people like?
Right, so you basically have this massive mothership that with the remains of civilization have lived on this massive mothership that's entirely self-sustaining, and so the society that's lived on this mothership for generations, all of their needs are provided for 100%, and so it's pure leisure, and they don't have a want or a need that isn't met, at least not a physical need.
But now I do remember that they were all like fat and stupid.
Yeah. Yep.
Now that seems like a cynical view, because like even you say yourself, like exercise feels good if you can get into it. So in a utopia, like you can go play basketball, you can go swimming. You don't have to pay a $500 gym membership. So like if they're now I wonder, and I know I'm jumping all around in this run-on sentence. Like I think a lot of the reason that things like social media and TV and stuff people are into that so much. It's just because it's slightly more enjoyable than doing nothing, which is what a lot of people are. They don't have the financial resources to live a full life. So it's like I can either watch a TV show, or I can stare at my wall because I don't have I can't go out and buy a kayak and go kayaking. Like so, I think a lot of that people basically I think people would live a lot more full lives and do a lot more stuff if they weren't limited to such a degree.
Yeah.
That's just how I find it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, but there's definitely something to that, the wealthy thing. Have you ever read Brave New World?
I haven't. Yeah, I haven't.
Yeah, that is kind of the same thing. The society was so advanced and so ordered that it came down to like they would optimize the genetics of any babies that were born, and they all had the kind of strict schedules throughout the day to do certain things. Any little thing that was like if they wanted to have some tobacco or anything, they had to meet and, sneak out of the room like teenagers. That's a good book. It gets the guy ends up hanging himself because he goes from this perfect society down to hang out with basically what they call them the savages, people living, kind of a more, what would you call it, naturalistic lifestyle.
Hmm.
And then and by the end of the book, he ends up hanging himself. It's too much.
Okay, yeah, like the shock of.
Oh man, it's been so long since
Yeah.
I read it, but I think it was not really the shock, but he could not reconcile. I could be totally wrong there. It's been a long time since I read it, but it was, sort of like experiencing both of those realities, or both of those communities. He realized what each one was lacking. So obviously the savage lifestyle was lacking something, and the utopian lifestyle was lacking something. And so now he could not reconcile having to live either one. He saw what was lacking from each.
Mm-hmm.
That would always be ever present. So I think I might be projecting a lot on that analysis. I think it was just because he had a breakdown or something.
Yeah.
It's a good book.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that kind of wraps it up. We went for a little bit longer than an hour. That's it. Do you have any parting thoughts for us?
No, I think we covered it.
Great. Well, thanks again for doing this. I think it went pretty well.
Yeah, that was fun.